All right, a question from Arturo. Where do you see the integration of blockchain and hyperledger technologies into OEMs in the following years?
If you view blockchain and ledgers as largely just distributed information devices, systems, I can use ledgers and blockchain technology to enable my ability to track a huge library or essentially community developed set of software elements and components that people are reusing is a good example of this. When you start thinking about very dispersed devices on many networks, even something as simple as perimeter security in a large campus or anything it requires, has a lot of points of access. It requires an enormous amount of security and there's, essentially ID management enablement within that context. Your ability to authenticate almost anything in a hyper distributed context will become valuable. One thing I think people don't fully grasp is that these systems inevitably increase their value and the return on their use largely at scale. So the more things I can get on the network and the more data I can get, obviously can essentially, if I organize it correctly, will render more value over time. In any of these systems, the ability to manage them from a centralized, and I mean literally centralized kind of architecture will become increasingly impossible. And I can't, it's just like trying to move all my sensor data back to the cloud in, milliseconds or microseconds. And so any of these systems that require highly distributed identity management, authentication, tracking of that authenticity in a track and trace kind of context, or simply a huge number of things like software objects or otherwise that might get used and reused, and the ability to track and meter that value or at least measure it over time. These are all potentially huge opportunities for OEMs to extend their value and security and other residual capabilities.